Hello, this is the second and concluding part of our expose on what it really means when INEC conducts failed elections and says, go to court. In the first part, I shared with you 5 different meanings and implications of the words go to court. Today, in this episode, I will share with you the remaining implications and meanings behind that dark expression. Let me illustrate. Contesting an election into public office in Nigeria is like traveling from Lagos to the southeast. That stretch of highway is filled with checkpoints, security checkpoints, literally hundreds of checkpoints. You even have more checkpoints on this highway than you have in major war zones like northeast Nigeria and even Ukraine. You have the police, the army, the air force, the navy, the customs, federal road safety authorities, and sundry vigilantes all setting up roadblocks on that highway. But guess what? None of those checkpoints is set up for the safety and security of motorists. On the contrary, they are set up to delay, intimidate, harass, and extort as much money as possible from road users. It's exactly the same with elections in Nigeria. Checkpoints everywhere on the highway to elective public office. The goal is not to conduct free and fair elections. The goal is not to select the best men and women for the job. The goal is simply to extort office seekers and the electorate. There are many checkpoints. I will only mention a few just for the records. Number 1, you have political parties and party leaders. These are a very important checkpoint on the road to realizing political ambitions in Nigeria. That's why many people are willing to kill and to maim to become party chairmen. Number 2, you have INEC and INEC officials. If you don't pass through this checkpoint, you are getting nowhere. Next, you have the rentals people, those who rent equipments, crowd, bishops, imams, and sundry props. Then you have the hype men, spokespersons, and media influencers. Next, you have the prophets and other religious leaders who forecast election results after consulting with Almighty God. The last checkpoint many fail to recognize is what I call the judiciary group: lawyers, court registrars, and judges. These men and women man the last checkpoint on the highway for every electoral journey in Nigeria. If you've not seen and settled them, you might not get to your destination safely. So, when INEC says go to court, they are simply directing traffic to their partners at the next checkpoint. They are saying, we are finished with you. Go and settle our partners at the next checkpoint if you want to get to your destination in peace. We are dealing with a well-organized criminal syndicate here. When contestants finally get to the law courts, you hear that they hire 50, sometimes 100 senior advocates of Nigeria to argue their cases. Where does that happen? It is only in Nigeria that you have to hire a village of senior advocates to argue your case. Behind every senior advocate, there are at least 5 to 6 junior workers working behind the scene. So, do the math. It's a very long food chain. Most of the lawyers and judges are not searching for justice. They are all searching for daily bread. And while Nigeria is in court arguing about who won or lost an election, real governance comes to a halt, and the rest of the world moves on. I will not say more on this so that I will not be accused of judicial disrespect. I will only say this: our legal and judicial systems have become compromised. They have become part of a crime syndicate, a long and vast extortion network, just like the police checkpoint on the highway. That's the unspoken secret behind go to court. Here's the real question. If every time INEC conducts an election, we have to go to the courts to determine who really won, why then do we need INEC? We might as well save all the time and money invested in INEC and the electoral process and go to the courts to select our leaders. Or what do you think?